Hey, how's it going? My name's Jefferson. I'm on staff here at Manna Church, and I'll be your host for today. I just want to say I'm so glad that you're joining us. If this is your very first time, we're very excited that you're here. I think it's going to be an amazing time together. Here at Manna Church, we do three things. We love God, we love each other, and we love the world. And I want to let you know how you can remain connected to us here at Manna Church. Firstly, you can continue to watch online like you're doing right now. It's on demand on YouTube every single week. But if you'd like to watch with a community of people, you can do so at our Facebook page at 10 a.m. every single week. Secondly, you can join a small group. We're in the middle of a summer-long sermon series, and we are in the middle of our small group cycle. But it is not too late to join. You can head to our website right now, get plugged in. We say this all the time, that life change happens in the context of relationships. So go to our website, sign up for a small group. I promise it'll change your life. And thirdly, you can join us for an in-person experience every single week at 10 a.m. Masks are optional, and we love to invite you. Now, next week is something really, really special. July 18th is Serve Day, and we are going to have church, but not church in the same way where you think. We are actually joining along with all of our Manna churches all across the nation, participating in Serve Day, and we are going to go and be the church. So meet us here at 10 a.m. and we're going to have a fun Serve Day rally, and then we're going to split up into different projects and serve our city in different needs. There's going to be giving free drinks. We're going to be praying for people at laundromats. We are going to be doing so many fun things, and you can find out all the details at our website. So if you would, go to our website, sign up for Serve Day. It's going to be beautiful time together, and you can meet us right here at 121 Skeet Club Road in High Point at 10 a.m. on July 18th. It's going to be chef's kiss. It's going to be beautiful. Can't wait for you to join us. So we're about to head into a time of worship. And let me just say this. I believe that you can experience the presence of God wherever you're at. Maybe you're at home, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're in the car driving and listening. I am praying that God meets you right where you're at and changes your life from the inside out. So I hope you're ready, because church starts right now.
Good morning, Manna Church Online. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am.
You are for me,
Not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope.
who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope.
Hallelujah, praise the one who sets me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no place on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who sets me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope.
Good morning. Welcome to Manna. My name is Dion Davis. I work on our guest services team here at the church, and I'm looking forward to spending a little time with you here this morning. Right now, we've been talking about the Beatitudes. I get really excited when I think about the Beatitudes. I love getting in discussions about them. The Beatitudes have a very special place in my life. They are the cornerstone of a ministry I was part of years ago. And every time I read those verses, I'm struck by the miracles I have seen in people's lives as they've surrendered to Him. I have come to a point in my walk where I do believe we are blessed to be a blessing. Whenever I read the Beatitudes, I'm reminded by this truth that God cares more about our character than our comfort. And one of those characters is that of having a giving spirit, of being generous. Jeff asked that I speak to you on this. He said I had a story to share. I wish I could say that I had been a giving person my entire life. I wish I could say I was generous. I was not. It was only until recently that I found a way of having a blessed life in giving.
I want to start off by sharing something. Recently, Michelle, my wife, her father passed away. His name was Marv Smith. Marv was a mover and a shaker. He loved living life to the fullest. He loved the good things in life. He had a lifetime affair with his childhood sweetheart, Connie, who passed away 6 years prior. He was a self-made multimillionaire. When I say he loved the luxuries in life, that's no exaggeration. His son said at the eulogy that his father had bought over 60 cars in his lifetime, and that, jokingly, he said, he never bought a new set of tires for a car. He loved the latest and greatest things, electronics, whatever. I could never keep up. I was always learning from him what the newest thing was. And he loved the Lord. He and I didn't see eye to eye on many things. We didn't have much in common. Really, we only had 3 things in common in the beginning. We both lost our fathers when we were young. We both loved Michelle. And we both loved the best team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers, of course. Other than that, we were like mixing oil and water. I really struggled early in my faith with his luxury lifestyle. I would constantly be stuck on Matthew 19, 21 through 24. Again, I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. My judging self wouldn't get past it. Over the years, we had a contentious relationship. It was so bad at one point when our kids were young that we had a falling out, that our families didn't see each other or talk for a couple of years. To his ultimate credit, he ended up working on himself and allowed us to have a new relationship, one with mutual respect. We actually became pretty close. He even rekindled a loving relationship with Michelle. So when he passed, we inherited a number of things, including one thing, which was his Bible. It's interesting going through somebody else's Bible to look at what their notes are, their doodles, their scratches, how they highlight, what's important. I was immediately caught by what I saw on the inside cover that he had written. It was an admonition, I was going to say it wrong, I knew it was, admonishment on what not to do. Idolatry. The veneration, adoration, devotion, or worship of any created thing, such as images, objects, peoples, philosophies, habits, positions, and occupations and talents. And B, participating in that which lessens one's loyalty, trust, and devotion to God. It was a warning on the inside of his Bible. Almost like he wanted to make sure he didn't go down a path. At least that's the way I looked at it. He loved his wife, his childhood sweetheart, Connie. They were truly partners in life. She constantly supported his dreams and desires. So it wasn't a surprise when I went and looked in his Bible and found this. Ecclesiastes 9:7 through 10. Go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for it is now that God favors what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, underlined, whom you love, and all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days, for this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the grave where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. That really summed Marv up. He lived life to the fullest. He loved his wife. It's amazing to me when you go to a service or a eulogy, the stories you hear a variety of things, whether it's those funny anecdotes, those sad memories, glad memories from different people. And the only common thread is they all knew the person who had died. That was the same with Marv. When he had died, his eulogy was no different than others. The stories, though, were a little different. The pastor of the church, Palm Coast Methodist Church, his name is Kevin, he got up and he told a very interesting story about Marv. He's known Marv for about 7 years, and he had actually come to the church from another area 7 years ago. And even before he started in that church, he got a phone call from the finance guy at that church. And that person said, "Kevin, let's go have lunch." Well, that was Marv. He was always involved in finance for any church he was in. So he goes and has lunch with Kevin. They're sitting there, and as Kevin gets his bite of food on his fork, he's about to put it in his mouth, Marv says, "Kevin, we don't have any money." And the way Kevin put it, immediately my mind goes to, I've just moved my family, I don't know what I'm going to do. And his mind was going there. The next thing Marv said was, "And Kevin, Connie and I will be in those pews with you throughout." It wasn't about a relationship with Kevin. It wasn't about a relationship with that church. It was about a relationship in doing God's work in that church. That's what Marv was about. 7 years later, that church now is in the process of building a new church on new property. That was Marv. His niece shared a story that she had just found out that her son, who was a missionary, had been receiving financial support from Marv. But more than that Marv had gone to him years before telling him, "I will sponsor your mission field work." That was Marv. While at another church here in High Point, he actually was helping to facilitate wells being drilled and churches being planted in Africa. He was very proud of the work he did there. Matter of fact, he had a binder on his desk he never kept far, and he would share stories and what that was like and who he'd worked with and some of those churches that were actually started and planted. He financially continued to support multiple churches, including his old home church in Michigan. I constantly heard stories about his giving attitude and spirit. He did live life to the fullest. He enjoyed the nicer things in life, cars, travel, luxury, but I also became aware just how serious it was for him to give. It was central to who he was. In 1 John 3:16-18, which he has highlighted in his Bible as well, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for other brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Most of his examples of his giving attitude, his willingness to give and be generous, he never made public. The only reason I know about them now is because they were shared at a eulogy. He was very quiet about that part of his life. Matthew 6:1-4 says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what you has done in secret will reward you." As it turned out, he was a great example on how to live life, caring for others and further the kingdom of God. In the end, as it turned out, he was much more concerned about his character than his comfort. Okay, so now, here I am. I wish I could say I had those same traits in me from day one. It's not true. You see, I was born an only child. Now, if the first thing you thought of is, well, he was spoiled, let me go further. I was also the only grandchild on both sides of the family. So if you were to say spoiled and self-centered and selfish, yep. Matter of fact, I actually love the fact that on Christmas Day, my parents had a cargo van, because when we made the rounds to all the family, by the time we got home, that cargo van was full of stuff of mine. That's who I was. That was pretty much how I lived my life for a long time. It was all about me. When I turned 21, I met this person. Beautiful, gorgeous smile. Absolutely loved life. She could talk to anyone. She enjoyed the company of others. She enjoyed my company. Not sure why, but she was amazing. Yes, it's my better half, Michelle. We had kind of a whirlwind romance. We were engaged for 6 months. We were engaged in 6 months, and then we were married a year later. We started our family shortly after that, and things sort of went downhill then pretty quickly. Our first child was a special needs child. He was autistic, he was low functioning, and he demanded all of our time. We then had 2 more children over the years, and there were times where we just really struggled in our lives. There was a point, in fact, that we both found ourselves unemployed and then underemployed at the same time. We were on food stamps. We even found ourselves at a point where we had to live with somebody else from church to try to get back on our feet. We were the family the church sponsored one Christmas. My kids' whole Christmas was thanks to the church. Our Christmas dinner was thanks to the church. I had not been a good steward with what I had, always living paycheck to paycheck, and playing my favorite game of hide the bill. Things would change, but it would take time. I had struggled with depression, and due to my openness about those struggles, I was asked to consider leading a ministry in our church, Celebrate Recovery. This is a recovery ministry where you really work on yourselves and you see others work on themselves, dealing with their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. You see, Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered 12-step program with 8 guiding principles. Those 8 principles are the Beatitudes. So yes, they have a strong place in my heart. God was continuing to work on my selfishness, and like many, I found healing in CR. I was leading Celebrate Recovery ministries in our church and planning them in other churches as well throughout the triad. It was an exciting time. It wasn't a smooth ride. And that was the first time I heard the concept that really changed my heart, which was God cared about my character more than my comfort. It came out of that. This is also the closest I have ever been to understanding Paul as he spoke about in Philippians, his contentment. Scripture is Philippians 4:11-13 says, I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstance. I can go do all this through him who gives me strength. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. God was demonstrating for me how much he cared about my character over my comfort. I know this because, like I said, I've struggled with depression. I have on and off different periods of my life. Yet during these trials where everything was in turmoil, we were losing left and right on things. My marriage was struggle. My job was a struggle. Our housing was an issue. Raising our special needs son everything was in turmoil. And yet my devotion to God didn't change. There was a peace there, a peace beyond my understanding. it truly was a miracle. This contentment was a blessing, but it was not lasting. It was like I had a glimpse about how simple life could be. Loving and caring for others. It was fleeting but meaningful. It firmly planted a seed in my life. During this time when we were working in CR programs through other churches, we would teach classes at these churches, and we would have men's groups and women's groups meet. And one night I was coming home from one of these meetings, and I went to the mailbox, and in the mailbox was a check, and this check was written by one of the men that was in my class. And I immediately called him up, and I said, I can't accept this check. Thank you, but I can't accept it. What he said to me next was very interesting. He says, don't take away my blessing. You see, I have money. I can make money. I have lots of that. What my wife and I didn't have was hope. Our marriage had failed. We were on the way of ending, and we found hope and healing in your class and in Michelle's. You see, she was in my wife's class. He told me that he told his wife about it and that he wanted to give us money, and she immediately said yes. So I accepted that blessing, and if I were to say that blessing was the exact amount we owed on our mortgage that month and our past due bills, it was. So during this time, I found myself trying to find ways to make ends meet. I finally relented and decided to go back and do a job that I didn't want to do. This was a job that I found no contentment in. I found no way to feel close to God and do this job the right way. It was my internalizing of it, but that's what happened. You see, what my job was, and has been for many years, is I would interrogate people. I was a corporate investigator. I was a regional manager. I was a variety of things in different companies. But bottom line was, it was about employees stealing or violating policies. And my job was to get them to confess. I was good at my job. The problem was, I was empathetic in my approach. I would take on what was happening to the person. What that meant to me was I cared about the fact what was going to happen to them when they went home and they didn't have that job. I cared about the fact that their wife who's at work right now is going to find out her husband's in jail. I cared about the fact their kids are going to have to deal with a dad who's now a convict. That all impacted me. You see, I had already believed in a very simple message. Who am I to judge? All I am to do is love. And yet my job was all about judging other people for what they've done. So there was a lot of internal conflict. I just couldn't find a way out of that line of work. My eyesight wouldn't allow me to look at something else. I had limited the opportunities, so I kept going back into it. You see, I was more concerned with my comfort than my character. As a result, I was constantly in conflict and found no contentment doing this job. Now, I will say there is a benefit to being able to behaviorally interview people to look for deception and lies. It's very useful in parenting. If my daughter and son were here right now, my daughter would roll her eyes and my son would be shaking his head, yes. This internal conflict was so bad for me, I struggled with understanding Jesus' parable of the talents. You know the one, where the master gave 5 talents to one, 2 to another, and 1 to another, goes away, comes back and asks for an accounting, and the first servant brings him back. The talents, doubles it. He says, good and faithful servant, doubles that. The second servant brings the 2 talents. He again prays, doubles that and gives him more. And then the third servant brings back what he was given. He had buried it out of fear of what might happen. You see, I was the third servant. That's how I lived my life. In my job was to protect the company's assets. So it wasn't mine. I just protected it. And that's how I looked at that pair. I couldn't get past the concrete aspect of it being gold or bags of coins or talents. That's it. I couldn't look at the fact that maybe those talking about, God's blessings on us or some other aspect of what God gives us. I struggled. I was that wicked and slothful servant the master talked about in more ways than one. At the end of Matthew 25:29, he says, "But from one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." And he's referring to that third servant. I was in the midst of dealing with many losses, continual losses. Things are being taken away. All right, so fast forward a bit. Living my life on my terms. We had a falling out with church. We started just kind of doing things on our own. We tore around with our faith, but not very seriously. And then something happened. You see, I was driving up Skeet Club, and I saw the VLC sign disappear and a manna sign show up. That manna sign intrigued me. So doing what I normally do, research what I can, I started looking into it. And when I finally found the right website about manna, it was different. It was intriguing. I kind of liked the idea of looking into it. But we had friends that started going here. And so Michelle and I made a decision, let our friends go check it out. Let them mill around a while, see what it's like. Then maybe we'll get involved later. All right, so fast forward a few months. We're doing a social event. Michelle and I love to have parties and get-togethers. We just enjoy those sorts of things. And so we're about to have one, and my friend calls me up. He says, "Dion, do you mind if I invite my pastor and his wife to join us tonight?" Okay, go ahead. That'll be fine. No, I really did not want to do this. This was like the vibe of having a pastor in my house when I am trying not to get involved with church again. Whatever, okay. So later that morning, I am sitting down, I'm wasting time, I'm going through Facebook, good time waster. And you know how the notifications page pops up? You see people you might want to connect with? I had a name pop I didn't recognize, Bullock. So I go to click on his profile to see who he is. As I click it, instead I click send friend request. Now, I immediately go to cancel this. I don't know what this says about Jeff's affinity for Facebook or his work ethic, but by the time I put my finger down towards the cancel button, he had already accepted my friend request. Oh. This was going to be an interesting day. You see, in the AM, I was still being that content person, living in the wilderness and staying non-committed to church kind of guy. By that PM, I was now hosting a visit with my long-lost Facebook friend, pastor, who would be there that night. I could just laugh and say, okay, God, this is obviously you. That night I met Jeff and Anna. Both Michelle and I felt a great connection with them. We came the following Sunday and have been coming ever since. Please understand, I am sharing all of this background with you to illustrate how God started working in my life at this point. At Manna, both Michelle and I have been exposed to the love of others and a desire to get involved. A desire. We want to do this. We both found ourselves going through Growth Track, going through Leader Step. By the way, if you haven't gone through Growth Track, I definitely encourage you to do so. It is the best way to learn about the church, to meet new people, to serve and get involved. We even joined small groups. Okay, another plug. That's a great way to live life with others, to learn about them. Awesome time. At this time, I received a very strong message. I don't hear from God directly very often. My wife travels with God. I don't. So when he speaks to me, it hits me hard sometimes. So I had a clear message from God that I needed to surrender to him. I just needed to say yes to him. I didn't know what that meant, didn't know how to do that. But he started doing something dramatic in my life. I came to call it a season of saying yes. Many of you may have heard me say this over the years. What that meant for me was I was no longer to hide behind my excuses. I couldn't do it anymore. I'm too busy to help. No, you're not. I don't know how to do it. You can learn. I don't want to go to that function. You're needed. I don't have money to give. Yes, you do. I just feel like being alone. You just want to hide. It changed everything. At Manna, we had a sermon series by Robert Morris, the pastor from Gateway Church, that focused on tithing and giving, of living a blessed life. Those messages really impacted me, so much so, I read his book called The Blessed Life, Unlocking the Rewards of Generous Giving. I've bought copies for other people. I gave them away to family. I've got some copies at home. If someone's interested, let me know. I'll be happy to hook you up. I began thinking about that phrase from before, God caring more about my character than my comfort. The idea of being blessed to be a blessing. I actually began to tithe. I embraced the understanding that everything I have belongs to God anyway, yet all he was asking for was my tithe, my first fruits, only 10%. You see, I had an aha moment. You know, that moment of possible clarity where you actually may have found the answer you've been searching for, that you'd heard before, but never embraced. It happened when I was asked to test God. Test God, right? It's probably not a good thing to do. I think in the Bible throughout, we see things happen. There's lots of death and cave-ins and not good stuff, right? Matter of fact, there's only one place in the Bible where God asks us to test him. It's in the Old Testament, Malachi 3:10. It says, "Bring the full tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and thereby put me to the test, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven for you and pour down for you a blessing until there is no more need." The message I received was pretty clear. To receive his blessing, I should do what he asked me to do. In Robert Morris's book, he talks about to receive God's blessing on your finances, you need to redeem your finances by giving to the Lord what is his already. That when the curse is lifted, blessings can follow. He further explains there are really 3 stages of giving: tithes, offerings, and abundant offerings. He states that we have to get past tithing to truly receive God's blessing, and when it comes to offerings and abundant offerings, it's not about a dollar amount we give, it's about the amount of sacrifice we're willing to make to the Lord. A great example of this kind of sacrifice Jesus himself talked about in Luke 21, 2-4. As Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. "Truly I tell you," he said, "this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people give their gifts out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in all that she had to live on." An abundant offering indeed. So basically what Robert Morris is saying, if you're looking for God's favor, start by doing what he's asking you to do. Bring the full tithe to the storehouse. As I started down this research preparing for today, I kept running into comments from pastors who struggled to deliver this message. As most often, what people heard was, "Oh boy, it's the money talk. Church is in need of money again." Matter of fact, it was so often mentioned, most often it stated, maybe you want to get somebody from the congregation to give that message. guess that's why I'm here. This is not the case. It's not a money talk, but it is a talk about being right, about getting right, about doing right. I'm not here to give you a prosperity message where if you give money, you're going to see, but there's some truth behind that. You see, in Robert Morris's book, he talks about how God blesses through multiplication. Something must be blessed before it can multiply. What many Christians fail to understand is that before your money can multiply, it has to be blessed. In other words, it has to be given to the Lord first. When we give the first of our increase, the tithe, our first fruits, to the Lord, the rest of it is blessed. He then references Romans 11:6. If the part of the dough offered as first fruits is holy, then the whole batch is holy. If the root is holy, so are the branches. Morris continues by saying, I know many sweet Christians who have never seen their finances multiply, and often the reason is that the money hasn't been blessed. When you give the Lord first, and the Lord puts his blessing on it, then and only then does it have the ability to multiply. Jesus, the one who receives our tithes, is the only one who has the power to bless it so that it can multiply. That's the first principle of multiplication. There's a second principle of multiplication. Only what is given away can multiply. Morris goes on by differentiating what tithes and offerings are. He says, tithing isn't really giving, it's returning. It is bringing back to the Lord what is already his. Thus, the second principle of multiplication is that finances over and above the tithe must be shared if they're to multiply. Like many of you, Michelle and I have been blessed when we've been able to give or abundantly give to others, to see how God uses those gifts and also the joy and impact generosity has had on our own walks. We have received blessings when we give. It's just that simple. I have found a need to be intentional and purposeful in my giving. You see, good intentions for me don't always happen. I need to be a little more direct for it to turn into action. So we're very purposeful in our giving. We try to find ways to make sure we put the needs of others in our hearts. Sometimes I'll chuckle when I think about what's going on, what I was doing versus what God was trying to do. On one such occasion, I was struck by the outcome. I was at Sheetz. I had a gift card that I wanted to give to somebody. And typically when I do something like that, I will pray over it and I will say, Lord, let me know who I should give this to. Immediately, I pop my head up and I look at the car next to me, knowing this is the guy. And I look, and it's a brand new white Jeep Grand Cherokee with HPU stickers on the back and the front. Young man, well-dressed, standing outside of it. This is not the guy. There's got to be somebody else. I got this. Let me find the guy. So I'm pumping my gas looking for the right guy God wanted me to give this to. And I just noticed this guy ends up walking away from his car to a AAA service truck that was pumping gas next to him, talking to the rep or the tech. And I see the tech shake his head no, and the kid came back. As he came back, curiosity got the better of me, so I asked the kid, everything okay? He said, no. Do you happen to have a Slim Jim? I've locked my keys, my wallet, my phone in the car. No, I don't have a Slim Jim. Did you ask the guy? Oh, yeah, I asked. He said, do your parents have AAA? And they didn't. So he said, sorry, I can't help you. Okay. Wow, well, I don't know how much this is going to help you, but I got this great little gift card you can use. Maybe get some food, sit down, wait for your dad. You see, he'd used my phone to call his dad, left him a message, and hadn't called back yet. The kid was very appreciative. He took the card, and I started getting in my car. And the next thing I know, the service tech had the card and was now using a Slim Jim to open the kid's car. All I had to do was be obedient. God took care of the rest. He knew why the kid needed it. About 2 years ago, I had made a prayerful decision to quit my job. It had been very stressful. The job I was doing was not the job I'd been hired to do. Like many, jobs change. But the more it changed, the more it took time. And the demands were just becoming too much. I didn't have a plan in mind. But after spending time in counseling to really look at the options and discussing with my wife, I knew the stress was too much. One of my employees had died at home. I had been the last person to talk to him. I knew the stress of the job was impacting him. I just didn't know how much. My VP of my department did not want me to leave. You see, I gave a 3-month notice. I didn't have a plan in place. I just knew I had to have an end date so I could start my next phase in my life. So we had many talks. And this one day he's asking me, don't do it. You don't need to leave. I explained to him, it's just too much. The demands are becoming outrageous. And he said to me, I understand, I wish you wouldn't leave. And then he said, I don't know how much longer I can do this either. The following week, he died of a heart attack, and he was in his early 40s. My need to leave was cast in cement at that moment. We had some exciting opportunities come our way. Michelle and I became excited about a business opportunity, a venture. I spent the next year volunteering with them in their business with the idea of buying it. I was learning all about it, loving every minute of it. Then COVID hit. Our investors, to go into this, literally said, this is not a good idea, as all these businesses had been shut down for months. So, where am I at? I am trying to figure out what to do now. My dreams, what I thought were the desires of my heart, weren't going to happen. Now what? Go back into the line of work I just got out of? I couldn't even do that. Those jobs were all gone. People were laying off in my industry. So I just found myself not working. This is kind of interesting, though. After a while, we realized we weren't financially underwater. Should have been. You see, I made 2/3 of the money. Now we were living on 1/3. No, that's not quite right. We were actually living on less. You see, we never stopped tithing. Not once. Somehow God was making a way. I couldn't understand it, but he was. So I found contentment knowing I could help out my family, help out my son, help out with, volunteering to others, assist my wife. She was stuck at home working all the time, so taking care of her was a real blessing. If I were to say to you, Michelle's income exploded during this time, that would be an understatement. You see, she's a mortgage banking officer. And when those rates started going down, her business just took off. So we found ourselves really amazed. When she'd get these unusual sales and customers that would come our way, it made no sense. We would literally call those manna from heaven. We just received manna from heaven. So in a nutshell, when it comes to my life, I know he's turned me, a selfish, self-centered person, into a more generous and caring individual. He has taken the same self-reliant person and humbled him to needing others. He has flung open wide the desire for and the ability to have new, deep relationships and friendships. He has continued to work in my life and shown me new possibilities as I am now working towards a new job, a new career, one that I never thought I could do. All this started when I entered the season of saying yes and continue to work on my character instead of my comfort. So, have I tested God? Yes. And he's delivered on his promises. Matter of fact, that time that I talked about feeling that contentment level like Paul during all those turmoils, that was the only other time in my life I tithed and gave regularly. So I'm sold, hook, line, and sinker. I have seen too many blessings to count when I have been committed to tithing and giving and being generous. And yes, I did come to realize my definition of a season and God's definition are very different. I had an expectation this would be finite and end, and now realize that in God's definition of season, when it comes to living for him, there's just one. I'm okay with that. I want to end with this. Do not consider giving or tithing for any other reason than it's something God has put on your heart to do. It should not be done out of guilt or fear. It should not be done when you truly feel a desire. It should be done when you truly feel a desire to give and to see and feel his presence working in and through your life. 2 Corinthians 6, 9 through 11 wraps it up nicely. The point is this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, but for God's love, it loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. As it is written, quote, he has distributed freely, he has given to the poor, his righteousness endures forever, end quote. He who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way to be generous in every way, which through us will produce thanksgiving to God. Looking through the lens of hindsight, I can clearly see how the gift of generosity has flowed in and out of my life. I have experienced both the blessings of giving and receiving. I have seen what a giving spirit looks like, and I now realize it had been modeled for me for over 30 years. I have seen and experienced how sacrificing for his kingdom truly blesses the giver. Finally, I have accepted the baton of giving and generosity that Marv Smith had modeled for me for 30 years, to take this baton and hopefully help others free themselves to give more freely. I hope you accept this challenge and accept this baton and continue to find ways to be giving and generous in your life, to see the blessings that follow when we truly care more about our character than our comfort. If God is prompting your heart and you don't know how to start, join me and say yes to Serve Day next Sunday and give your time and serve Manna in your community. I hope to see you there. Thanks.
Oh, you were the Lord. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust
Thank you so much, Dion, for your transparency. Just what an amazing word about being generous and how Jesus really cares more about our character more than our comfort. And maybe this is your first time encountering the presence of Jesus and being in a church space, and you are feeling the call to enter into a relationship with Him. Or maybe you've been watching for a while or been around church spaces for a long time, but you haven't fully given your heart. Well, we would love to take that next step with you. So if you would, go to our website and send us an email saying, I want to learn more about Jesus, or I want to take my next step in faith. We would love to be on the journey with you. So go send us an email right now. Don't do this life alone. You also heard Dion talk about Growth Track, and I want to personally invite you to Growth Track. We are beginning a new cycle in the month of August, so we're taking July off. But Growth Track is one of my most favorite small groups where you get to find out all about who we are as Manna Church, but also it helps you discover your gifts and your callings and the things that God has created you to do and how you can be a part here at Manna Church. So again, head to our website, sign up for Growth Track now, and we will kick it off in August. Every week, we like to take a moment to say thank you for your generosity. We just heard a great message about generosity, and we believe that when we give as a community, as an act of worship to God, He is going to multiply what we give, and we are going to be able to use it to serve our city. So if you give and you partner with us, thank you for your generosity. If you'd like to begin to give, you can do so by heading to our website and following all the prompts. You can give a one-time gift, and you can even set up recurring giving. And we're so excited, like Dion said, next week is Serve Day, where we get to be generous with our time and with our energy and with our efforts. So I hope you're ready for next week, July 18th. We'll meet right at our church building, 121 Ski Club Road, at 10 a.m. We're going to have a free Serve t-shirt for you. So come out with some pants that you don't mind getting dirty, and we are going to serve our city and show the city of High Point the love of Jesus. If you have any more questions or need more information, again, you can find out all those details on our website. But hey, I love you so much. I can't wait to see you right here next week.